So why do you obsess about food all day long? Why is it constantly on your mind? So I'm going to share with you why that's happening as an emotional eater. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And this is something that I see time and time again. When I work with clients, all they think about is food. They have this constant obsession about food. Their next meal, food is constantly on their mind. They're thinking about food. They're obsessing about food. Food is getting in the way of their life. And when I was emotionally eating, that's all I thought about too. Food, this is good, this is bad, weighing food, counting calories, all of the things. Food was constantly on my mind, and not in a way that I enjoyed. It was really pulling me away from the things that I wanted to do. I felt out of control around food. I felt out of control with these thoughts. It just was this incessant voice. It just felt like it wouldn't stop. I didn't know how to stop this voice, and it didn't matter what I did, if I was good, if I was bad. These obsessive thoughts about food, they kept coming up. And so when I talk to women, this is something that is happening for them. They're constantly thinking about food, and they're constantly trying to fight off these thoughts with willpower, or fight off their actions around food with willpower. And so when you're an emotional eater, it's hard to willpower your way past these thoughts. It's hard to ignore them. You have to really get to the root of this pattern. And that's where these thoughts start dissipating, where there's more space. So you have lunch, and when you get hungry, you have a snack or you have dinner. You don't constantly think about food. And so why are we constantly obsessing about food, and how do we stop this obsession as an emotional eater? So this is not just about ignoring these thoughts. These thoughts are important, and there are layers to these thoughts, these obsessive thoughts, and there are reasons why we might be thinking about them. So we might actually be thinking about food. One of the main reasons I see, the first reason, is that because we are in this diet mentality, we're restricting ourselves. And usually as emotional eaters, we get into diets and diet mentality and restriction because we feel so out of control around food. That's the only thing we see around us. We need to control food. We need to control the amount of food. And as emotional eaters, because we use food to cope and as this numbing tool, and we become out of control with food, it can start directly impacting our physical body. And so we want to control food. We don't want to feel out of control with food. We want to control what our body looks like, because if we look a certain way or we maintain a certain body size, then we assume we have more acceptance and validation. And so restricting food physically starts creating these obsessive thoughts, because we are physiologically restricting the amount of calories our body is getting, which turns the brain on for hunting for calories, because now it's on the hunt for energy, and it needs energy, and it's going to start obsessing about food as a way for you to go and eat more food. But if you are a chronic dieter, or you're really good at willpowering your way through, for most of the time, you're going to judge yourself and say, no, I shouldn't be eating this. And a lot of the diets out there, they're not connecting you to your body. So you are restricting calories, you're restricting macronutrients, you think this food is good, this food is bad. And that is all depriving yourself. You're physically depriving yourself of food. And so you need to learn a new way to nourish your body, connect back to true hunger. So start really satisfying your hunger, meeting the needs of your body. And hunger has 4 qualities you want to satisfy. It has to be, the food you're eating has to physically fill your stomach. It has to have enough micronutrients and minerals and vitamins. It has to have enough energy or calories, and it has to taste good. And so if you're not satisfying yourself, or you're pushing away because you don't know how to tune into true hunger in your body, and as emotional eaters, we feel we're hungry all the time. So we don't know true from emotional hunger. And if you want to start learning to discern that, you can download my free guide below called What Are You Truly Hungry For? But this is a way where we're obsessing about food because we are physically starving ourselves. We're not eating enough food. And so this is one layer of the pattern. And so when I'm working with clients, this is the first layer we are looking at through true nourishment and even body acceptance, what our body physically needs to feel good. But we're looking at it in a way that's nourishing our body, not just, an intuitive eating, eat whatever you want. We're eating in a way to satisfy those components of hunger so we feel good after a meal, and we're not snacking and constantly thinking we need to eat foods or eating foods that don't satisfy all of our body's needs. The second reason that we are obsessing about food, which is the deeper core reason that we obsess about food as emotional eaters, is that whenever discomfort, uncomfortable emotions, stressors come up, our brain is turned on to think about food. We have these thoughts and obsessive thoughts about food because it's a distraction. So thinking about food, planning food, once we start nourishing our body and we still have these thoughts are pulling us away from the emotion or unprocessed emotions or traumas in our body. So we're thinking about the food, we're distracted by the food, and if the trigger is really strong, we're going to jump and just go and eat that food. And so we have to start being able to, one, see that we're truly nourishing our body. So when these thoughts of food come up, is it true or emotional hunger? This is why it's important to start discerning that. And when it's emotional hunger and we're having these thoughts, that means that they're trying to distract us from whatever's going on internally, emotionally, that we don't know how to be with. Because we learn to cope with food. We learn to use food as a way to soothe ourselves, to numb out, distract from any uncomfortable emotions that were coming up, because we didn't have the proper modeling of how to move through discomfort or uncomfortable emotions. And we weren't regulated by our parents when we were going through those situations. And so the only thing we had, or one of our outlets, is food. And food just kind of numbs us. But food is a band-aid. It's not getting into the deeper roots. And so when we have these obsessive thoughts, that means there's something deeper going on in our body that we need to look at. We need to dive into the roots of this pattern of whatever emotions coming up to start processing, integrating, resolving it, and then that's learning to meet our true needs, whether it's just emotionally processing and moving through this emotion on a body level, and then having some action to follow through, some boundary, some change we need to make, because our emotions are information telling us about our life, what we need to change, what we need to do. It's giving us information, and we need to honor that. So we are obsessing about food for two main reasons. Usually we're not nourishing ourselves enough because we have these diet mentality, these diet rules, and we're restricting ourselves. We're not in tune with our true hunger. And the second reason is that we are obsessing about food because we're emotionally hungry, and that is our distraction. That's the way we cope. And so what we need to start doing is having a process to help us see how to move through and navigate this. So when I'm working with clients inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program, we are working through these layers. There's an additional layer with body acceptance that ties into true nourishment. So we're working through how to nourish your body, really catching those triggers, knowing that, are you nourishing your body? These are the emotional triggers, how to move through that deeper emotional trigger, and how to nourish yourself. And these thoughts start dissipating. There's more space in between. You don't obsess because you start feeling at ease around food, confident around food. You feel that way in your body as well because you can trust yourself. You know what works for your body, and you have an embodied experience of that, really understanding yourself and diving deep into this pattern, into the layers. So those are the two main ways that you have obsessive thoughts about food, and we need to really start diving into those to start resolving it from the root. So if you are curious on how to get started on that journey, I do have a free guide called What Are You Truly Hungry For? And it helps you to discern true from emotional hunger and start catching your triggers. And this is going to be the doorway into resolving this pattern. And if you're interested in the Emotional Eating Evolution program, this is my 12-week container, which contains the step-by-step process, coaching, support, guidance, and deeper tools to get to the pattern at the root. You can find out more at the link below. If you have any questions about what I've shared today, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day. you.